Did you ever hear the argument that contraception will reduce abortion rates because it'll keep children from being conceived in the first place? Because that seems to be the most common argument that I've heard in pro-life circles in favor of contraception is that obviously if you want to avoid killing children,
Yeah.
they say that the logical way to get there is to just not make sure the children aren't conceived in the first place. We're not going to stop people having casual sex, so let's just use contraception and that will stop abortions from happening. Did you buy into that argument or what were your thoughts on that?
I can't specifically recall thinking that, but like you saying it to me now as like a person who wouldn't have thought about it very much, I could say, sure. Yeah, that makes total sense.
So, what changed your mind then? What made you first start realizing that contraception and abortion were linked?
Well, there were two things. First of all, I decided to read Humanae Vitae. And when reading that, I came up on a section that Pope Paul VI had written specifically on what he thought would be the outcomes of using contraception. And those really hit home with me. And
Mhm.
they were that he thought that it would lead to infidelity and moral decline, which there can be no doubt that we've seen that in the last, this was written in 1968, so 56 years ago, we can see no doubt
Mhm.
that immorality has increased, lost respect for women, and we can see that too. And it's the simplest way to see it is to see that abortion, women didn't used to have abortion as a way to, tell a guy no. And they lost that. And so it has become harder to say no, and it has become a stopgap. It has become a method of birth control, abortion, a backup method for it's easy for men, and it has become easier for women. Abuse of power, and he stated that widespread acceptance of contraception would lead to a dangerous weapon in the hands of governments, and that is very easy to see in China and Vietnam's one now two child policy that they've enforced on their people. And then unlimited dominion, meaning that contraception would lead man to think that he had unlimited dominion over his own body. And that is a very real and growing consequence. It's just catastrophic all the way around. Women are just little things like women delaying pregnancy now. They think they have that type of control over their body, and when you delay pregnancy, God God made our biology to really, hyper interested in sex beginning in the late teens and onward. And so I think that people were now I now think I didn't necessarily back then, but I think that we're built to get married when we're younger, have kids when we're younger. And so women delaying childbearing has had physical fallout plans, fallout of that. Just a few hypertension, preeclampsia, placenta previa, where the placenta covers the opening of the cervix, gestational diabetes. And then, as far as the consequences to the children go, there is preterm births now and low birth weight, and there's a higher probability of moms even dying who get pregnant later. Then there's sterilization. My own pastor had no problem saying from the pulpit that he gotten sterilized. It's just very common, especially in Protestant world. IVF is a terrible consequence. Some stats that I found are that only 7% of embryos created by IVF ever survive. They result in a live birth. So 93% of embryos that have been created for IVF are either frozen indefinitely or they've miscarried, or there's a high rate of abortion, meaning natural abortion. A mom may implant one, two, three embryos, and they die. And then over 1 million embryos are now living in frozen animation now across the U.S. And again, I have another pastor. I go to a large church, and his wife told me that they conceived with IVF. They have a beautiful daughter. She's now 7, 8. But they have 2 other embryos that are frozen. And now she is getting too old for childbearing, and she just didn't know what she was going to do with these embryos. And there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of parents that are caught not knowing what to do with these babies that they've created, but they don't want to bring into the world. Surrogacy, we're seeing that more and more, especially with gender confusion, homosexuals marrying, women that don't want to get pregnant, Paris Hilton, Kim Kardashian, just relying on a paid surrogate to have babies, turning women into machines. Gender confusion, and that is a part of that is also the transgender movement. When you begin to like muddy up the difference between men and women, you try to make women more like men by allowing them not to get pregnant, which is their natural function. That's one of the big distinctions between them and men. It has fallout in those areas too. So those were, as I thought through Humanae Vitae, what he said made total sense.